Hello, and this is the lesson plan project for course ITEC 7430. It's entitled Make a Difference, Civic Responsibility, and I am your host, Jasmine Burns. This presentation was created with Microsoft Sway, and we're going to talk a little bit about this particular project. Here's your overview. This was an original PBL project created by Jeff Horowitz, and it was modified in order to meet the specific needs of the students and to enhance the teaching and learning experience. Second graders are ready to conquer the world, and they can start with their community. In the Make a Difference Civic Responsibility project, elementary school students make a valuable and meaningful contribution to the social, environmental, cultural well-being of their communities. They learn to participate actively in their communities as they partner with local organizations to fill a real need, help a specific population, engage in public service, and make a tangible difference in their neighborhoods and beyond. In a simple video created especially for this project, parents or adults from the school inspire students with a short description of their own civic contributions and then challenge students to do the same. In partnerships, students create plans for one specific thing they can do in their community, in partnership with a relevant local organization. Students implement the solutions with their partner organization and tracks its effect by collecting meaningful data. Finally, students analyze their impact on the community and display their work at a public showcase where parents, teachers, other students, community members, and even project beneficiaries are invited to witness and appreciate the civic contributions. The content standards involved are below. Your main content standard dealt with English and language arts. You had some secondary standards in math, and you also had some standards in social studies, in which we'll get into that later. Your ITEC standards that were involved are listed below as well. We want to make sure that the students were engaged in positive, safe, legal, and ethical behavior when using technology, including social interactions online or when using network devices. Essential question: what will the students have to answer? How can we make a positive difference in our community? We wanted to make the project authentic, and one way to make the project as authentic as possible is to make sure that the students could do something or connect with something that directly related to them. What better way to do this than with their community? The Civic Responsibility Project teaches students the following English and social studies concepts and skills and how to apply them in a real-world context. The learners will apply knowledge of different writing skills for varied purposes and audiences. The learner will investigate how to work with adults and community stakeholders in the real world. The learners will identify and define problems in the community. The learners will demonstrate and produce toward solutions for specific social, environmental, cultural issues in the community. The learners will manage, record, and analyze the results of work in the real world. The learners will create and present work to a variety of audiences. Assessment tools. How will the students be assessed? Well, the students use a different variety of reflection sheets, checklists, different rubrics, and graphic organizers, and they all provided some sort of data and feedback for the students and the teachers. Here are some of the clips of what the physical worksheets look like. They will be asked questions like, what's the problem? Who is affected by the problem? And why is it a problem? This is to invoke critical thinking skills. The project overview rubric is used towards the end of the project. And they're rated on the creativity, how informative the project was, did it make a difference, and even the teamwork aspect. Then you have a civic scoring guide. This guide explains or kind of comes into context the creativity, how informative it was it creative, the difference, was it informative, how did it make a difference in their community, which was a good way for students to assess what their project in a different organization that they chose, how was it benefiting their community. Right here, this organization profile was actually created for students to utilize after they found the organization that they decided to partner with. This way they can have all of their contact information, and this is a way for teachers to also keep up with the contact information. Then when you move beyond, students had to be able to tell the history of the organization, so they really had to do a lot of research. What did that organization do, and how does it help solve problems? How can this organization help address the problem that they had identified? The biggest piece of this project, I feel, was the daily reflection sheets. So each day the students had to have a goal in mind, and then at the end of the day they had to reflect. Did they meet their goal? Were there any obstacles? And if so, like, how did they solve those problems? And then what would their goal be tomorrow? And once they choose their goal for tomorrow, they have a jump start on the next day. Another thing I like about their reflection piece is the teamwork aspect. They had a chance to reflect on themselves and how they work well in the team. They also had an opportunity to reflect on how their partner worked with them on the project. But during this time, you also had to coach students on how to be tactful, how to do things respectfully, give their opinion respectfully, because their partners essentially had an opportunity to see these things. But along with that, the partners, or they had to learn how to accept constructive criticism and be honest. That way they can grow as individuals. What's the problem? The What's the Problem worksheet was used also in the beginning of the project. So they could actually see what was the project, what was their problem in their community. Who was affected by that problem, and why was it actually a problem? So this was also to invoke those critical thinking skills. The sheets that you just saw were the physical sheets that were created because we were using technology. But in using technology, we wanted to make sure we had a great alternative. And the alternative would have been using those physical sheets. But all of those sheets, the rubrics, the guided practices and things of that nature were housed in Seesaw. Seesaw was a tech tool used for the assessments, the rubrics, and the checklist that you saw above. And students use Seesaw to document their experiences and answer questions such as, what's the problem? Who is affected by the problem? So forth and so on. There were other technology tools used in the project as well. You had Microsoft Office Forms. And the title of the forms that was used was called, What Has Been Your Civic Duty? So what the students had to do was, they were given a slip of paper that had either a QR code or the link to this particular document here, in which their parents were to go in, or their guardians to go in and answer these questions. And this was a part of the very beginning of the project. Students also used Padlet. And this particular Padlet was used for a brainstorming exercise. And the brainstorming exercise was called tickets, please, where students had to think of at least one idea to leave the class and one idea to re-enter the next day. And students actually had the opportunity to do this on index cards, place them on in their seesaw folders, or on a Padlet. They also had the opportunity to use Microsoft Excel, which was used in the latter part of the project where students had to collect data. Students had to release their work out into the community, and then they had to track to see how their work was affecting the community with the Excel spreadsheet. And then if they chose to do so, they had to create their own bar graphs and things of that nature, pie charts. They could have used the information they received from the Excel spreadsheet to actually do this. Students also used iPads, and the iPads were used for research, collaboration, communication, and for documentation. The iPads were used in conjunction with their desktops in the classroom, which was also used for research, collaboration, communication, and documentation. The final product. So, students had the opportunity to choose from a number of technology tools for their final product. The project offered multiple opportunities for students to present their work. And the students were able to create real work that serves a need or function in the community, and they would showcase that work and its results that it generated to a public audience back at school. Students have multiple opportunities to bring their work into the real world, see how it's used by real stakeholders in the community, and then explain these artifacts and experiences to audience of peers, teachers, family members, and board community. Student had their choice of which technology tool to use to create their final product. All of these technology tools that they had to choose from were those that have already been presented to them, they've already been familiar with. Those included Sway, which this presentation was created with. It included Flipgrid, and Flipgrid was also an option that students could use to document their journey while conducting the project. They could use PowerPoint presentation. That was another presentation tool. Microsoft Office Mix, Animoto. These were some great presentation tools that they could use if they chose to do so. Looking back on it, this project, when I had an opportunity to reflect, it was very enriching and challenging at the same time, not just for the students, but for me as a technology leader. I gained a wealth of knowledge, things that I would do and would not do in the future. It also gave me an opportunity to get back into the classroom, really deep into the classroom, and help out the teacher. It also stretched me as a technology leader to prove to me that it was better to help facilitate learning rather than be more hands-on. Teach the students and the teachers how to use specific things and to maneuver through their technologies and actually see them use it on their own and work through their own problems. Following the showcase, there was an opportunity to debrief about the work that the students had done and to celebrate their success. That was another great thing that I realized about this project, that celebrating the success was very important. These were second grade students, and to know that they did a great job and to see the support, the amount of support that they received from their teachers, myself, and the community members, and the sense of pride that they got from learning things that they did not know about their family members beforehand. The students did a great job of following the rubrics to the best of their abilities. They had a chance to look through the many work samples that they had, displays from the showcase, and evidence of the good work that they did in their community.